Mark Carney walked into Stockholm, Sweden, and in one move, he may have just changed the future of North American defense forever. In a bold and unexpected decision, he signed a massive deal with Saab, the Swedish aerospace giant, to build Gripen fighter jets right inside Canada. This isn't just another military contract, it's a complete shift in power. A $400 million factory in Montreal, full technology transfer, over 12,000 Canadian jobs, and most shocking of all, the cancellation of 72 remaining F-35 orders from Lockheed Martin. That's huge. For decades, Canada relied heavily on American defense systems, but this deal signals something very different. It's about independence, it's about control, and it's about proving that Canada now has real alternatives. What makes this even more powerful is how deep this agreement goes. Saab isn't just selling jets, they're handing over everything: the blueprints, the software, the engineering secrets. Canada will be able to build, upgrade, and even modify these fighters without asking anyone for permission. On top of that, at least 60% of every aircraft will be made using Canadian parts and suppliers, boosting local industry in a massive way.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. Canada can actually export these jets to other countries, turning this into a long-term economic engine, not just a defense purchase. Plus, Canadian and Swedish engineers will work side by side on future upgrades, meaning Canada isn't just buying technology, it's helping create it. The plan is to build 88 Gripen jets over the next 15 years, with deliveries starting in 2028 and full operational power by 2035. But this isn't just about airplanes, it's about something much bigger. For the first time since the Avro Arrow was cancelled back in 1959, Canada is stepping back into the world of building its own advanced fighter aircraft. That's a 67-year gap, now closed. And when you compare this to the old plan, buying F-35s, the difference is clear. The F-35 program kept Canada dependent on U.S. systems, maintenance, and approvals. This new deal flips that completely. It gives Canada control over its own defense future. So this isn't just a contract, it's a statement, a signal to the world that Canada is no longer just a buyer, it's becoming a builder, a partner, and a competitor. And if this strategy works, it could reshape not just Canada's military, but the entire global defense market.
The original plan was simple. Replace Canada's aging CF-18 Hornets with America's most advanced stealth fighter, the F-35. And to be fair, those jets are already flying. 16 have been delivered, they're operational, and no one denies the F-35 is a powerful aircraft. But here's where things get complicated. The F-35 doesn't come alone. It comes with control, a lot of it. Every part of that aircraft is tied to the United States. Canada can't modify it freely. We can't add weapons unless they're approved. We can't even share certain technologies with allies without permission. And then there's maintenance. The entire system depends on Lockheed Martin. The tools, the parts, the software, all proprietary. If support is ever delayed or restricted, those jets don't fly. It's that simple. And it doesn't stop there. There's no real technology transfer. Canada buys the planes, but we don't truly learn how to build them. Our industry gets limited work, but not the knowledge, not the independence. We can't produce them ourselves, we can't export them, we can't build global partnerships around them. We remain just a customer, locked into a system we don't control. And then comes the cost. The F-35 program has faced delays, overruns, and rising prices for years. Canada had no real leverage because until now, there was no alternative. That's where the Gripen deal changes everything. Sweden is offering something completely different. No political strings, full technology transfer, a factory built right in Canada. Real manufacturing, not just assembly. Export rights included. Fixed pricing. No surprises, no overruns. 88 aircraft over 15 years. And a clear roadmap. And just like that, the remaining 72 F-35 orders are gone, canceled. Lockheed Martin loses billions, and for the first time in decades, the Pentagon loses a level of control over Canada's air defense decisions. But here's what makes this move truly strategic. It didn't happen overnight. It was built step by step. Over the past 18 months, Carney quietly laid the groundwork. Because walking away from the F-35 wasn't just a military decision, it was a geopolitical one. Canada needed new partnerships, especially in Europe, and that's exactly what happened. On February 14th, Canada joined the European Union's SAFE initiative, a massive €150 billion defense program. That move opened the door to European funding, European technology, and European supply chains. Suddenly, Canada wasn't limited to American systems anymore. It could integrate with European forces, operate within their networks, and compete for contracts across the continent. And that's the key. The Gripen isn't just a jet, it's part of a European ecosystem, built to work with European weapons, logistics, and defense systems. By joining SAFE, Canada made this entire shift possible. And at the same time, Carney built the political backing needed to handle the pressure that would come from Washington. Because make no mistake, canceling the F-35 deal was never going to be easy. The Pentagon would push back, Lockheed Martin would lobby hard, American politicians would react. But this time, Canada wasn't standing alone. It had options, it had allies, and for the first time in decades, it had leverage. What makes this move even more powerful is that Canada didn't do it alone. It built a global support system before making the decision. Just days before the deal, on March 16th, Mark Carney met UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in London, where both leaders aligned on defense, security, and shared values. The message was clear. The United Kingdom fully supports Canada's right to make its own defense choices. Then came the Nordic nations. On March 15th, in Oslo, Carney stood alongside leaders from Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Iceland at the Canada-Nordic Summit. All five backed the partnership with Sweden, seeing the Gripen deal not as a threat, but as a stronger, more balanced transatlantic alliance. And it didn't stop there. A wider coalition of middle powers, Japan, Australia, South Korea, India, nations with a combined $20 trillion economy, all signaled support for Canada's independence. This wasn't just diplomacy, this was strategy. Carney built a network strong enough to withstand pressure from Washington, and for the first time, Canada had the backing to say no. But saying no only works if you have somewhere else to go, and Carney made sure of that too. He built real alternatives. In January, Canada locked in long-term energy deals with Germany, securing 20-year LNG contracts and reducing reliance on the U.S. market. In February, trade with the European Union surged, with Canadian exports finding new buyers and growing rapidly. And in March, Canada rejected every single demand from Donald Trump under USMCA negotiations, from dairy to digital services, because now Canada had options, real options. And the Gripen deal is the clearest sign of that shift, a defense decision that reflects full strategic independence. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. This wasn't a blind choice. Canada tested both aircraft in real-world conditions. In February 2026, the Royal Canadian Air Force went head-to-head with Sweden in Arctic exercises in northern Norway under NATO training. Canadian F-35s versus Swedish Gripens, in the exact harsh environment Canada operates in. And the result? The Gripen stood out. Not because the F-35 is weak, but because the Gripen was built for this. High-latitude operations, rough conditions, limited infrastructure. This jet can land on highways, operate from frozen lakes, and be turned around by a small crew in under 10 minutes. It's built for survival when bases are under threat. Meanwhile, the F-35 depends on complex support systems, heated hangars, specialized equipment, heavy maintenance. In Arctic warfare, that becomes a risk. Canadian pilots came back and said it clearly. The Gripen fits Canada's reality better, and this time leadership listened. And then there's the economic impact, because this deal isn't just about defense, it's about the future of Canada's industry. Over 12,600 jobs are expected. Not just any jobs, but high-skill roles in engineering, advanced manufacturing, software, and aerospace innovation. These are long-term, high-value jobs that strengthen the entire economy.
Compare that to the F-35 path, where billions of Canadian taxpayer dollars would have gone straight to factories in Texas, supporting American workers while Canada simply received finished aircraft. No control, no knowledge, no long-term gain. But the Gripen deal flips that completely. Now, Canadian money stays in Canada. Canadian workers build the aircraft. Canadian engineers improve them. And Canada gains not just jets, but the power to sustain, upgrade, and even export them. This is what real independence looks like.
This is exactly what Mark Carney promised when he took office, and now he's delivering on it. He said no more would 70 cents of every Canadian defense dollar flow straight into the United States, and the Gripen deal proves it. But as you can imagine, Washington is not happy. Lockheed Martin quickly responded with disappointment, pointing out that the F-35 program supports Canadian jobs through industrial participation. And yes, that's partly true. Canadian companies do build some components. But here's the reality. Those roles are limited. Canada doesn't own the technology. It can't export those parts independently. And if the US ever decides to cut Canada out, those jobs vanish overnight. The Gripen deal changes that completely. It gives Canada something it's never had before: full, permanent control over its own defense production. The Pentagon kept its response more diplomatic, saying Canada is still a strong NATO ally and everything will remain interoperable. But behind closed doors, this move is sending shockwaves. Because the F-35 program depends heavily on international partners to keep costs down. If Canada walks away, costs rise for everyone else. And more importantly, it sets a dangerous precedent. If Canada can say no to the F-35 and choose a European fighter instead, what's stopping others? Poland is already exploring Gripen options. The Netherlands is starting to rethink. Even countries like Germany are watching closely. What we're seeing right now is something much bigger: the slow break of America's long-standing monopoly over Allied air power. And that's where the real impact of this deal hits. It's not just military, it's strategic. This sends a clear message to the world. Canada is no longer just following orders. It's making its own decisions based on its own interests, and that message is echoing globally. In Tokyo, leaders are watching closely. In Canberra, strategists are taking notes. In Seoul, policymakers are seeing new possibilities. The so-called Middle Power Coalition that Carney has been building, worth over $20 trillion, is no longer just an idea. It's becoming real, and the Gripen deal is the proof. For decades, the United States operated with the assumption that allies would always fall in line, that there were no real alternatives. And for a long time, that was true. But now, that's changing. Carney spent the last 18 months quietly building those alternatives: European defense ties, Asian trade deals, energy agreements, industrial partnerships. So when pressure comes from Washington, Canada can now respond differently, not with resistance, but with confidence. No thank you, we have other options, and that changes everything. So what happens next? Because this isn't just a short-term move, this is a long-term transformation. Over the next 15 years, Canada will build an entirely new defense ecosystem. The first Gripen deliveries are set for 2028, just 2 years away, and by then, the Montreal factory will be up and running, producing not just aircraft, but a new era of independence for Canada. Canadian workers will soon be building these aircraft with their own hands, and the Royal Canadian Air Force will begin receiving Gripen jets as early as 2028. By 2035, Canada will have a full fleet of 88 modern fighters, completely replacing the aging CF-18s, but this time they'll be sovereign, controlled, and built with Canada's future in mind. And here's where it gets even bigger. This deal isn't just about today's aircraft. It's about tomorrow's technology. Canada isn't just buying the Gripen E, it's becoming a partner in designing what comes next. Saab is already working on future models like the Gripen F, and Canada will be part of that journey. That means Canadian engineers, Canadian ideas, and Canadian innovation shaping the fighters of 2040 and beyond. Jets designed together, built in Montreal, and fully controlled by Ottawa. That's not just procurement, that's long-term sovereignty. On March 19th, Mark Carney didn't just sign a contract, he made a statement that echoes across the world. A $400 million factory, 88 aircraft, over 12,600 jobs, full technology transfer, export rights, and 72 F-35 orders canceled forever. This moment was the result of everything built over the past 18 months: European partnerships, the Nordic Alliance, the SAFE Initiative, and a powerful diplomatic coalition that gave Canada real options. Every step led here, and now everything is in place. Yes, the reaction from the United States is intense. Lockheed Martin is scrambling. The Pentagon is watching closely. But Canada is moving forward. Not out of conflict, not out of hostility, but out of independence. Because this is what real independence looks like: the ability to choose your path, your partners, and your future. And the Gripen deal is just the beginning. Carney has been building something bigger: a $20 trillion middle power network, new energy deals, stronger global ties, and a defense strategy that no longer depends on American approval. The pattern is clear. Every decision reduces dependence. Every partnership expands freedom. Every move strengthens sovereignty. This is a new Canada, one that doesn't ask for permission, one that sets its own course. And the Gripen factory in Montreal will stand as a symbol of that transformation. Canadian workers building Canadian fighters, powered by global partnerships, not because Canada is turning against anyone, but because it is finally standing on its own. 72 F-35s gone. In their place, control, capability, independence. That's the deal. That's the shift. And that's the future. If you want more updates like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because this story is just getting started.